In this world, there are winners and losers, right? There are people at the top and people at the bottom. And the people at the top thrive and feed off those at the bottom, specifically in a capitalistic society that we live in. And it's definitely not like I'm against capitalism or the free market system. I mean, when it comes to a lot of these things, you kind of just stop looking at it from a morality standpoint, but just like everything in life, there's good and bad, right? Duality. But almost everything in which our society works is designed purposefully to keep a majority of people existing at a low state, to keep society running for the people at the top. And through the quote-unquote system, we were taught that as long as you worked really hard, then you would obtain success. That's the quote-unquote American dream, right? The American dream is this idea that regardless of who you are, where you're from, if you work hard enough in the system, through the system, abiding by its rules and regulations, paying your taxes and whatnot, eventually you'll achieve success and prosperity. And what this usually means for over 99% of people is go to school, elementary, middle, high school, get your general ed, go to college, get a degree, get a 9 to 5, and if you keep shoveling away, eventually you'll obtain success, right? And side note about this idea on hard work, yes, hard work is necessary, but hard work does not guarantee success. It's definitely an oversimplified and highly flawed logic. I mean, I guess it's a nice romanticization because human beings are narcissists at heart. It's like we want to believe that we did it all on our own, right? It was all of our own hard work, that we grinded for what we have, and it was all us. Especially with this weird self-empowerment, self-centered culture where people think they're more than what they are. I mean, it's far from the truth, right? There's a lot of things that had to set you up and lead you in the right direction that had nothing to do with you. I mean, you could have been born without a limb, bacteria could have taken your eyesight, you could have had a chronic disease, and in that sense, we're lucky. I mean, you can work as hard as you want, but be in the wrong place, wrong time, you're still not gonna get anywhere. It's like that quote, it doesn't matter how hard you dig if what you're looking for isn't there to begin with. And most people are digging for something in a place where there's nothing, because they've been lied to and convinced that there is something where they're digging and that something is what they should be digging for. And it's a culmination of a lot of factors, right? You might work hard, know certain people, have certain connections, have the ability to understand people on a profound level. Maybe you know how to speak in a way that attracts people, whatever it is, right? The point is there is always going to be other factors, more than just hard work. If the work we put in was really what we got out, most 9 to 5 workers would make way more than the majority of people in the 1%. I mean, you gotta ask yourself, do you really think people in the entertainment industry, which is the 1%, work harder than people working most 9 to 5s? It's a rhetorical question, of course not. It's funny, I remember my very first job, well not first job, but first quote-unquote official job. I worked at Safeway, worked at the deli department. And I got to know this lady, she was in her 40s, she was the hardest worker there. And I remember everyone else took their lunch break, they were hiding in the bathroom or whatever, right? And I got back from my lunch break and she was handling the whole department on her own with a line of customers during dinner time. And she was taking order, making sandwiches, cooking chicken, serving food, cutting meat, mopping, cleaning, doing dishes all at once, with a bunch of angry, rude customers that just wanted to get their food and get the hell out. And she was making $20, maybe $21 an hour. And the point is, these jobs are a dime a dozen for the majority of Americans who work 9 to 5s. And it's like, do you really believe that some Instagram model that took a few pictures for some failing bikini company that no one knows about as a $50,000 brand deal works harder than her? Or like some investor that looks at the stock market all day, or some dork that put $100 in Bitcoin like 5 years ago. I mean, maybe they had foresight or a little bit of luck, whatever outside factor like I mentioned before. But the point is, it's not just about working hard. The 1% worked smarter, had some mid-factor that I mentioned before, found a path aside from the system. They either broke the matrix or became one with the matrix, like some Agent Smith shit. But again, it's capitalism, right? If you can capitalize on the free market system, supply and demand, whatever, right? Working hard doesn't necessarily translate to being successful. And especially if we're talking about society's definition of success. And let's really analyze this, right? Starting with the education system, which is a core part of society. There's a reason why all the people at the 1% don't speak highly about a degree and the education system. They know what it took to get there, and it certainly had little to do with a piece of paper that costed hundreds of thousands, which represent a bunch of arbitrary, useless information. The ROI on most degrees is almost negative. Cause think about it, right? Most people are going to college, more people have degrees. The more people have degrees, the more useless degrees become. And if you're in college, which I think most of you guys are, you know it. Bachelor's degrees are like prerequisites. Back in the 90s, graduating college actually meant something, but the more expensive college became, it inflates the prices of universities. And the more people have common degrees, the more people end up going for more schooling to get a leg up on the others, and the cycle continues. And then when students do more schooling, they end up taking $100,000 loans, which further makes you a slave into the system. And again, there's almost no guarantee on your ROI. In any other stock market, most people would look at that and think to themselves, this is one of the worst possible investments. And the basic premise of this is scarcity equals value, which is why degrees are becoming more and more useless, because they're less and less scarce. I mean, not to mention, it doesn't represent anything. Almost all jobs you learn from the ground up and have nothing to do with 90% of what you quote-unquote learned. And in a normal supply and demand graph, this would mean that the cost should decrease. But it's literally the exact opposite. The price of university has inflated exponentially and will continue to do so. In any normal market, people just stop investing in the system because there's no guarantee on your return on investment as the price is inflating and the value is decreasing. I personally think it's the biggest scam created in society, and the best thing about it for the bankers and families behind these universities and the education system is that there's not a damn thing society or anyone can do about it. Because that's just what everyone has to do, right? Unless you're trying to be a doctor or engineer, these specific careers, which if so, more power to you, most students come out of it being a pothead, alcoholic, handful of debt, lost and confused. College and the education system is nothing more than a business in a capitalistic society. And as we all know, a business is only concerned about one thing, and that's maximizing profit. Let's forget about the education system for a second because I could go on and solidify my point over and over. Let's look at another core part of society, which is money, wealth, and our idea of it. Most people's understanding of money and wealth taught by our parents' generation is to get a 9 to 5, save and work till retirement, put your money away in your savings account for no interest, which makes the bank more money, eventually get a mortgage, maybe own a home, get a loan, work to pay off the house one day, get a nice hard asset that if you don't pay taxes on, the government will take from you, 401ks, pensions, all this crap, right? Almost everybody tries to follow these ideologies on money and wealth, yet it almost works out for nobody who does this. That's because these ideas, these philosophies on money and wealth only benefit the system, and again, it was designed purposefully this way. And I want to make that point clear because the worst thing about our idea of money and wealth is that we see these things in a nice car, some jewelry, some bullshit clothing brand, designer brand that has no value. Which, by the way, you're just buying people's perception and attention, but that's beside the point. But again, it's just one of those things that society tells you will make you happy, right? It's a status symbol of quote-unquote success to impress people. I personally can't imagine a more pointless pursuit, but these are things that most quote-unquote normal people strive for. If you go downtown, any city, walk around, look at the buildings and skyscrapers, and those buildings and skyscrapers are all owned by people, millionaires, billionaires, and these are examples of real hard assets. All while a majority of people, the NPCs, are chasing bullshit cars and jewelry, and the people at the top are laughing at those people. Now, why do people chase these things, right? This is where pop culture and media play into society and how that works against the majority of people as well. Because in reality, all these things in society coincide with one another. That's what makes up the system, or the quote-unquote matrix. It's how and why most people will forever exist on this hamster wheel created by society, like a cog in the machine running for the people at the top. Most people are looking for an escape. The system is designed in a way that makes a majority of people discontent with their lives, and this is a key point. They need an escape from the dreadful 9 to 5 that they work. They need an escape from the bills and taxes and loans bearing them. They need an escape from feeling inadequate to other people on the social ladder via social media. And there's one thing that keeps every single person going, and that feeling is hope. Human beings are addicted to hope. It's why people worship celebrities, it's why they chase the things they do. Mark Norman once talked about this and how it was related to his gambling addiction. He wasn't gambling for money or even the thrill, he was gambling for hope. Cause there's a moment in time while the cards are being dealt, the wheels are spinning, the dice is in the air, there's a feeling of hope, and that's what most gambling addicts were really addicted to. Media and pop culture prey on this aspect of human nature. You see, pop culture and social media is one big advertisement, whether that's for clothes, shoes, cars, houses, a certain lifestyle. You are constantly consuming advertisement. You and most people are constantly being sold something or the idea of something. And it's extremely easy to sell a product to a consumer that's constantly looking and searching for ways to cope with their lives that they're discontent with. And by the way, the advertisers know this. They are masters of psychology. You will buy a product because the celebrity's face is on it. Like McDonald's will do a collaboration with a celebrity that changes nothing about the product, and a week later you'll randomly want McDonald's. It's programming, and the common person can do little to nothing about this. It's the system, right? People become nothing more than a statistic that works for the machine, that keeps it running for the people at the top. The people that are supposed to balance the scales are the politicians in positions of governance, state or federal. That's actually probably one of the most ironic statements I ever made. Politics is another core part of society and how the system works. But politicians are bought and sold, and everyone knows this. They work for the system more than anyone else. I think billionaires and trillionaires have their hand in the government more than most politicians themselves. And it doesn't have to be this discreet, covert, nefarious, undercover kind of thing. It can literally be as simple as sliding a direct deposit or wire transfer a few $100,000 to go the opposite direction on a new bill. Just things like that. Because that few $100,000 could be life-changing for a politician, but is worth less than toilet paper to these multi-millionaires and billionaires. I mean, the system's rigged, and the politicians are no different being a part of that. Let's look at taxes, for example. The top 1% gets taxed the most, right? And the politicians make just under the 1%, so they don't get taxed for that 1% bracket. I mean, that's real convenient. And to be honest, most people in the 1% aren't even paying their taxes. If you really think they are, you're kinda dumb. Because even for most people, there's a lot of ways to get around it. And you got these people like Hillary Clinton, who comes out of office with like over 50 million worth of property on the East. And you have politicians like Nancy Pelosi, who's somehow magically the top investor in the country with her insider trading self. Dude, all these politicians, these people are hilarious, man. And then when they're done, they all write some bullshit book that sells to every dumbass American thinking they actually took the time to sit and write it themselves. Matter of fact, if you're a politician, just write a book and secure your retirement. You don't even gotta write it yourself, just hire a writer and pretend it's you. Most Americans will consume any dumbass product nowadays. Like on some real shit, literally almost 99% of core institutions and systems in society are designed to work against the majority of people. I mean, some people kinda deserve it, not gonna lie. And they give people just enough to be able to run the machines, keep the system running for the people at the top. But they'll also restrict you to a point where you subconsciously know you will never reach a certain point, know that the 1% are above you, and that the government is above you. During the whole pandemic situation, the stimulus checks and the mandates were a prime example of this. Inflation, gas, the stock market, and the education system, media, politics, pop culture, and even social media, literally everything, it's crazy. I don't know if you can directly relate it to capitalism, but it's the system, it's society. So what does all this mean, right? What am I getting at? What can the majority of people do? And to be honest, I don't know, beats me. It's kind of like this. If you ask every single person if they trust the government, any idiot would say no. If you ask them do they trust the media in which they get their information, most people would say no. But people still consume the news. People still listen to and abide by the government, reading their favorite politician's Twitter every day. Some people will never realize it, some people might, few will probably do something about it. And I guess the silver lining from all this is that unfortunately because of this, most people live a certain kind of life that makes them a slave to the system. You know, someone's gotta make the coffee, someone's gotta flip the burgers. And there will come a time where technology takes over all retail jobs, which again make up most American 9-to-5 jobs. 30 to 40% of malls closed, those jobs are replaceable. And you got all these bankers secretly trying to buy out all the housing, which is turning the American middle class into renters. I mean, I guess the point is people are kind of screwed. And you just gotta make sure that's not you. And don't get too caught up in the system, quote unquote escape the matrix as they say. Politics, current events, social media, climbing the social or corporate ladder, having millions in your bank account. I don't know, buying your dream car or mansion, whatever the hell you want, right? Just don't get too caught up in it. One day we'll all be gone and none of that goes with you. Just don't get too caught up in all this and don't forget what's really important and what life's really about. Anyways, if you guys liked the video, leave a like, comment, or sub. And with that said, make sure you guys stay true. I'll talk to you guys real soon and see you real soon. Peace.